Second part of your review packet has to do with trig. I know that you went over a lot of this in pre-calculus. You absolutely have to be very good at it. I'm going to walk you through each of these. If you got them all right and you don't need to hear my explanation, then simply skip this video. But the first one, sine of 5 pi over 6. The first thing I want you to do is find the reference angle. Here's the rule. If the denominator is 6, your reference angle is 30 degrees. If the denominator is 3, your reference angle is 60 degrees. If the denominator is 4, your reference angle is 45 degrees. And you should have the sine, cosine, and tangent of 30, 45, and 60 absolutely memorized down pat. If your denominator is 2, then you're talking about a quadrantal angle, and we'll have to talk more about those later. So sine of 5 pi over 6. So the next thing I have to do, I know my reference angle is 30 degrees, and I know the sine of 30 is a half. But now I have to figure out what quadrant I'm in to determine if it's positive a half or negative a half. I like to think of 0, pi, and 2 pi as my, I don't want to say references because that's confusing with reference angle, but I always go by that. So to determine where 5 pi over 6 is, I think of 6 pi over 6 as being pi, and therefore one less than that would be in the second quadrant, which would be 5 pi over 6. Sine in the second quadrant is positive, so you're looking at positive 1/2. 16, let me show you how I work this out. Pi over 6 again is 30 degrees. Secant is 1 over cosine. So the cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2, but I have to flip that over, so it's 2 over root 3, and when you rationalize, you multiply by root 3 over root 3, you end up with 2 root 3 over 3. And again, we have to figure out what quadrant we're in. Well, if you think of pi as being 6 pi over 6, then 7 pi over 6 would have to be in the third quadrant. Cosine is negative in the third quadrant, so your answer is negative 2 root 3 over 3. Here's that arc cosine we talked about. It says this means the angle whose cosine is negative root 3 over 2. Well, what angle has a cosine of root 3 over 2? And the answer is 30 degrees. Has a cosine of root 3 over 2. So where is the cosine negative? Because this is a negative. Cosine is negative in 2 and 3. But only one of these quadrants is included in the domain of the arc cosine. Remember, arc cosine is only defined from 0 to pi. From 0 to pi. So we're talking about the second quadrant, and in the second quadrant the angle is 150 degrees or 5 pi over 6. Tangent of 4 pi over 3, your reference angle is 60 degrees. Tangent of 60 is root 3. And 4 pi over 3, again, if you think about this as being 3 pi over 3, you're in the third quadrant, and that's positive. Cosecant of 5 pi, so if this is 0, you have 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi. It's the same as pi. So the quadrant, or the coordinate here, is negative 1 comma 0. Remember, cosine is x, sine is y, tangent is y over x, and cosecant is 1 over sine. Well, we just said sine was y, so 1 over sine, 1 over 0, would be undefined. Cosine of negative 3 pi over 4. So again, 4 is in the denominator, you're talking about a 45-degree angle. Where is cosine negative? Well, cosine is negative in 2 and 3. So, I'm sorry, that's not the right thing to do. Pi over 4, negative means go this way. So, this would be negative 4 pi over 4, because that would be negative pi. So negative 3 pi over 4 would be in the third quadrant. Cosine is negative in the third quadrant, and the cosine of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. So your answer is negative root 2 over 2.